This is Stefan thinking about how to record this
I
video.
don't know, man. This videos is always.
This is like nuclear physics, which angle, where to position the phone. He
Yeah.
wants for me also to be in this video, but I did not refuse. I offered my help.
Yeah, so let's do it spontaneously like always. So hello guys, today we wanted to talk a bit about...
Wave a little bit, like president of
Don't zoom
Transalp.
it too much, don't zoom it too much. We wanted to talk about the why we bought the Transalp against the Africa Twin. Against two versions of Africa Twins, so both normal and adventure sports. And let's talk a bit about the main advantages of Transalp. Let's go straight. Actually, before we go straight to that, what's your opinion, Tatiana,
About what? I did not
about
listen.
this topic? Like, why did we take Transalp and not Africa Twin?
Because Africa Twin is expensive and Transalp is more affordable.
You go there. I want you to show your face.
It's more affordable. And I was the one going to the bank and taking the loan, and I felt more comfortable with this one.
So you tricked me. Did you trick me?
But
my-
no, let's be real. This thing finishes the job for us. It has the comfortable seats. It has the cushions for my back. It has the wind protection. Like you're missing tempomat,
Cruise control, yes.
cruise control, and I forgot what else.
And the wheels are not tubeless.
But this is not something I think about daily. This is something I think about only if we get trouble with the wheels.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, no. This is also a huge bike. Is Africa bigger?
Maybe a bit bigger, yes. A bit wider in front. A bit
Well-
taller.
That's nice, but this is also nice.
Okay.
We are not marketing victims.
Yes. We are trying to choose what we actually need, not
Yes.
what we think we need.
But don't be fooled. We are recording these videos when it's winter time, but I'm not driving when it's winter time. I'm smart. Stefan is not.
Okay, do you want to record me now to talk a bit in details, or do you want us to finish this video right now?
This is all I can say.
So, if we go a bit in the details, the one advantage...
Oh no, this is a 40-minute video
No,
now.
it's gonna be short. I'm gonna try to make it short. It's the weight. So this thing is around 208 kilos. The main Africa, the base Africa is 226 kilos, so almost 20 kilos difference. And the Adventure Sports is 238 kilos. And if you want DCT versions, it's gonna be plus 10 kilos. So that's some noticeable difference. Where do you notice this difference? So you notice it in the corners. So for example, if you lean, and if you want to add more lean, or if you want to switch the lean to the other side, so if you have some curvy road, you will then notice mostly this weight transition from one to another side. It's more noticeable on the Africa Twin than what's happening
She's a cat.
on the Africa Twin than on the Transalp. So for my riding, I'm used to actually riding these sporty bikes, and it would be a really huge transition if I went directly to the much more heavier bike than the MT10 was, for example, because then I don't know if I would prefer this. So for me, the natural transition to this type of a bike was the Transalp, which nicely combines the weight and the advantage of these fairings and all of this into the one bike to do it all. Now, the other thing where you will notice, of course, the weight is when you move the bike around. And for example, we had one crazy situation. Tanya, do
Let's see
remember
how you move bike around.
I became weaker, so it takes a bit more effort for me to move it around, but it's not so heavy, to be honest. Transalp is really
So you would say it's movable.
it's movable. Movable machine. Do you want to tell people how we struggled with that BMW S1000 XR
No.
when we stopped on the
No, this is something I want to forget.
We stopped on one hill, and this BMW S1000 XR is noticeably top heavy bike, and it's more why do you laugh so much? It's the bike is more manageable by somebody who is, you know, taller. And for me, we stopped on the hill. I wanted to put my feet down, but with the three cases, so two side cases, one top case, I felt the weight so much. The bike started falling down. I was holding the bike and Tatiana behind, and three cases. I was in training at that time. I could manage, and
Just say the truth.
Your ass was heavy. What?
No. I was also in training and I held the bike also with one leg.
Okay. No. This is you jumped from the bike. I told you jump, and you jumped and you started pushing the bike from below, but that was not even enough. And somehow we managed.
But
the
my
bike
leg
was-
helped. It was a strong
Yes.
leg.
So why am I saying this? I'm saying this just for the purpose of saying what's the differences in weight, and I really don't prefer when the bike has lots of weight, and when it's less manageable, and when you need to wrestle it around. So that's one advantage, let's say, of this bike. Now the other thing is heat from the engine. The heat is really not noticeable on this bike. I heard some users are actually expressing that it's noticeable, but for me, I did not feel it, and it was I did not ride it in maybe 40 degrees Celsius, but it was pretty hot.
What are you
But-
saying? This summer was crazy hot. It was 40 degrees.
But we didn't have Transalp at that time.
Yes, we got it.
Maybe at the end of the time, I'm becoming old.
Yes, you are old.
Okay. Anyways,
So the other day you said you're 40 years old and you're in the early 30s.
early 30s. Okay, this is how people say, you know, it's like you're 40. Maybe that's why I moved to this adventure style of bike. And now, heat from the engine, like I met one guy who was riding Africa Twin, and we parked the same parking spot, and he just told me, you know, as soon as he got off his bike, he said, oh my god, man, I would really like to get a Transalp. Like, Africa Twin is too much of a bike for me. It's great for touring, but you know, this heat in the city is killing me. Like for him, like the Africa Twin had lots of heat compared to the other bikes. I don't really know this personally, but from my experience with other bikes, the machines 1000 cc's, they actually tend to work on a higher load temperatures. So this is the other thing, the other reason why this bike might be more suitable for you if you're the type of person like me. Now the third thing is the price. Well, this is actually the interesting topic. The price is like, for this one we got it on sale for 10.5 thousand euros, and the base Africa Twin is like 15,000. Maybe they would give like discount 200 euros, they told me, but that's nothing. And the Africa Twin Adventure Sports is 18.5. So now, I didn't even finish talking about all of these differences, but when you just think about all of the bike that you need on the street, in my personal opinion, this bike does lots of things that Africa Twin will do on the road, especially talking about the road. As an everyday bike, as a touring bike, two-up bike, I would say it's maybe around 80% of what Africa Twin would be. Africa Twin has some advantages, of course, but you know, thinking that for the first Africa Twin in a line, you need to pay like around 50% more money, and the actually engine performance and all of the things you will get is quite questionable. Now, on the other side, if you want to go even more expensive, Africa Twin 18.5, then you're paying for like 80% of the price of this bike, and that's pretty big sum of money. Now, let's go further away. Suspension. Suspension is not electronically adjusted on this bike, Transalp, and on the Africa Twin base version. That means that if you want to put a pillion behind, more weight, you always need to do it manually. So
Where is it?
Where is it? What?
Where are you?
Manual adjuster is below.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So for me, like thinking, I will ride with my wife, and I will ride alone and with the luggage. I didn't feel like that's good enough for me to pay 5,000 more and to also need to adjust my suspension every time manually. And if I again wanted to have this electronically adjusted suspension, I would need to pay lots more money. So then I just stick to the base version of suspension, which is what Transalp has. Africa Twin has more ground clearance, and that's good, especially if you want to go the off-road. And I'm talking about the base version of Africa Twin, because the more expensive AS Adventure Sports is a bit less tall, so it has less ground clearance. So on this bike, actually, why I prefer this as well when I compare this to the base version of Africa Twin is the lower the bike is, usually the more the lower center of mass it has, which in terms means it's more agile, more better in corners. Like all of these things are more suitable than on a taller bike. So again, me coming from a sport bike, thought this is probably more sane idea. Cornering,
Who taught you this sanity?
I don't know, you.
Yes.
Yes, you need to have the wife in your life. Otherwise, you would make stupid decisions.
Otherwise, you would get
Yeah.
Africa Twin.
Because always, what she said is like we are marketing. We are in this
Yes.
world where everything is about marketing. So
Yes.
you always think you need more, and when you buy that more, then you will again find some problems in it, and you want even more, and you're never satisfied.
And there is always something new on the market.
yeah, and
And you're
talking,
trapped because you want to have the newest.
And we're talking from our experience because we had really very expensive bike like Kawasaki H2SX.
This is not a topic to say in plural.
Yes. Okay. But anyways, that bike costed like the new 26,000 euros, and even owning that bike after a couple of months, I realized I'm much more satisfied with something that's less expensive, because even that less expensive was more fun to me, like MT10 for example, or even the MT-09. So on top of that, what we were saying is cornering. Yeah, cornering feels a bit more agile on this bike than on Africa Twin. Really, the difference is not huge, because I tried Africa Twin, I rode it, and I was really shocked how well the Honda balanced that bike. It's really very manageable. It feels much more sporty than you would think, like looking from a side. You think like, oh, this is a huge bike, it's not so manageable, but it's not correct really. But still, this bike, also based on some other riders' experiences, is better for cornering. It's more fun, it's more manageable. Less fuel consumption. Now this is not a huge amount. Like I did some research even before buying this bike, and that's around 0.7 liters per 100 kilometers. So this bike is around, depends on how you ride, but mixed riding city, outside of city and highway, it's around 4.2 with my riding, which is mixed. Again, I like acceleration, I like cruising, I like all of these types of rides. On the Africa Twin, it's around 4.8. Now again, if you ride it harder, it will go way above, but around 0.7 liters of difference, which makes a difference if you're somebody who rides a lot. So these are all of the, let's say, advantages. I'm checking my notes because there's lots of things to talk about. And all of these advantages, really, when you gather them and you summarize, again, make you rethink your purchase if the Africa Twin is actually worth it or no. Because this bike, in my book, does lots of things. It's cheaper to maintain, cheaper to run. It's very much lightweight. You don't feel the weight on it. It can do all of the things Africa Twin can do, probably better in most areas. The plus area would be again the electronics, which we're gonna speak again now. The next topic right now will be the Africa Twin advantages. And first on the list would be adjustable screen. So this one doesn't have adjustable screen. You just leave it as it is, and it is what it is. You can just change the screen, you can cut it, whatever you want to do.
What do you mean?
It's not adjustable. You have it like this. You cannot move it up and down.
Aha, windshield.
Windshield,
I
yeah.
thought about this display.
No. Now, yeah, the other thing is better suspension. So the components are more quality, so you will feel less potholes, less issues on the road, less imperfections. So that's also other thing to consider. But again, like I said, the base Africa Twin, you will need to manually adjust the preload if you put more weight, somebody. If you want to go full all in, you need to pay for that electronically adjusted suspension, which is around 1,500 euros more on top of base version. So that's the things to consider about the suspension. Africa has more ground clearance, which for me, I ride mostly on the street, is not beneficial too much, to be honest. Is beneficial if somebody wants to go off-roading, and that's talking for the base Africa Twin. The other Africa Twin, the Adventure Sports, is a bit lower down than the base Africa Twin, but in general, like for the street riding, I really feel very comfortable with Transalp. I did not feel like there is some problems. Also in the corners, like it really holds the line, unless you really push it so hard, which I never advise anyways on the street. What could be also the thing? Yeah, Africa has more power in lower RPMs, so you don't need to rev the bike so much up in the higher revs. You can get lots of torque, lots of power. It's around, I think, up to 7,000 RPMs. Whereas this bike, it's usually chilled in lower revs. It has good amount of power, but if you want to extract all of the power out of it, you need to rev it higher, like 6,000 RPMs plus. And both bikes actually are not so different in terms of this acceleration. If you just look purely at acceleration, it's not a big difference, because this is lighter bike and it's really a sporty engine. They put it in a Hornet as well, so it's really sufficient on the street. Africa Twin, like what Tanya said before, she thought I'm talking about the screen, has more complex screen. So it's touch screen, so you can touchy. Yeah, so you can do this, and you have this auto. Yeah, it's, I don't know, auto play, I think, CarPlay they call it. So you can you have more options to connect. You have really nice apps inside. It looks more premium. So that
But you
will
don't
be-
need this. When you go to ride the bike, you go to
Yeah, you
see
will
the
not-
nature.
You will not look too much into
You
it.
don't have time to do touchy.
And now the other good thing about the Africa Twin is the traction control. You can easily turn it off. So for example, you want to go off-road somewhere, you can press the button, it will shut down, and that will be it. On the Transalp, it's really problematic. Like you put it in the gravel mode, and in this gravel mode, the electronics are really limiting you. Like every time the tire wants to slip a bit, it just catches, and the bike stumbles a lot on these rough roads, which I really don't like. And if you want to turn it off, you can turn it off in the user settings, but then every time you shut the bike down, you also need again to go into those settings and to manually, in the manual mode, user mode of the riding modes, adjust it to turn it off. It's really a pain in the butt, I must say. Another thing is Africa Twin has this higher spec electronics in terms of the recognition in the corners, like the ABS turns on in the corners and makes your bike more stable. And also it has wheelie control. This bike doesn't have wheelie control. Again, you're paying more premium price for those features. Another thing what they put here on the end is, again, what we said at the beginning, cruise control and tubeless tires is what Africa has. And this is probably the biggest reason why and how Honda wants to differentiate these two bikes. Because this bike is really lots of the things Africa Twin is, in my opinion. And if they put cruise control and tubeless tires, really lots of people would buy this as much cheaper option, more sane option. Tanya, would you add something else? I was
No.
really trying to.
This is not a topic I have knowledge of.
Okay. Now I would say, what would be the conclusion out of all this? So, as I said, the price difference to base Africa Twin is around 50%. Actually, it was 50% when this bike was bought on a sale for 10.5. As a regular price is around 40% more, whereas the Adventure Sports is 80% more. So our process when we thought about these things was like, if I want to get better bike, so for the road, mostly for the road, like what we want, we would really need to pay for the Adventure Sports. Why? Because the base version of Africa Twin would still make us manually adjust the suspension. It would be heavier, 20 kilos. So again, like I said, less manageable. It would be higher to maintain. The price of maintenance, the services cost would be higher, and the temperature out of the engine would be higher. And I would get more ground clearance, which I will not actually use too much. And I don't know, like in general, I would need to pay more in the monthly rates. So I go to Adventure Sports then, and Adventure Sports would give me less ground clearance, so the bike would be lower, the seat height would be lower, and I would get the cornering lights, I would get all this electronics, I would get the electronically adjustable suspension, which is really good. Plus, when you ride with somebody behind, you want to switch it on the fly, and I would get the bike that has wider fairings in front, because base Africa Twin is not wider than this. I did also the research, and most of the riders who tried Africa Twin and Transalp said the wind protection is similar to the base Africa Twin, or even better on the Transalp a little bit. But on the Adventure Sports, you get wider fairings in front, and those wider fairings protect your legs even more. And like I said, you would be really getting some more value, but you need to pay 80% more price, and to make it really reasonable for the street ride, to make it much better, let's say, than the Transalp. So, as a conclusion, I said like my background is mostly sporty bikes, naked bikes, and also the financial situation right now. When I was thinking about it, like it would be too much for me to go directly for Africa Twin, that one, because I never actually had adventure bike before, and to pay 18.5 thousand euros, it's lots of money for me, not being 120% sure like what I'm doing. This is one reason. Second reason is like just like logically talking, like it's not so much better bike than Transalp is for daily rides, for cornering, for traveling. It is better bike, like in general, and has better features, better electronics, but not to the point where I would feel like it's justified. So yeah, if we had, like Tanya, if we had this 18.5 like to just give, would we go for that Africa Twin Adventure Sports?
I'm not sure, because I am satisfied with this one.
Let me just show them your face, not my face anymore. Your face. Say what you mean.
It's a good bike. This is, I don't know. I need to ride a little bit more on Africa Twin to make my decision, but I wouldn't say that it's like the bike you absolutely need. I think that you get this bike when, you know, it fits your needs and you really want it, and you of course can afford it. I mean, Honda really did a great thing with Africa Twin, but whoever thinks that, you know, Transalp cannot finish whatever the road he's given, that's wrong. It's a great bike.
Any more conclusions before we end the video?
No, I like this bike.
Great. So we hope you found some of this information useful, maybe for your purchase, maybe for your general information. That's our process of thoughts. That's how we think about these bikes.
We think about also the market.
Yeah, the market.
Because we don't want to just buy stuff.
Yeah, because
to be smart.
Usually they just want to us to pay more to these brands, to this, but it's just really not necessary in most cases. And you should just think rationally about how you're going to use the bike, not just fall for the marketing.
Yes.
So,
see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Bye bye.